Speak Up LA is committed to changing the narrative about who experiences houselessness and why, and about supporting communities to engage in decision-making and advocacy that's led by those closest to these experiences. Welcome. My name is Ann English, and I want to thank you for joining us to celebrate the 12th cohort of CSH Speak Up Advocates. We began holding workshops 10 years ago in Los Angeles and have been honored to work alongside over 100 supportive and affordable housing tenants, including Amber, Antonia, Caitlin, Kia, and Victoria, all of whom you'll hear from today, and more than 40 volunteers throughout the project. Speak Up is about culture change. It's catalyzed by our colleagues with lived experience, and it's cultivated through community partnerships. I want to take a minute to acknowledge our sponsors, the Conrad and Hilton Foundation, the Funders for Housing and Opportunity, and the John and Marilyn Wells Family Foundation for their ongoing support. And because this is a movement and it truly takes all of us, I really want to give a shout out to some of our partners who are doing great work supporting advocacy and lived experience leadership in their organizations. It's work like the Domestic Violence Allyship Program that's led by the Downtown Women's Center and Rainbow Services, the Los Angeles chapter of Housing California's Residents United Network, which is led by the Southern California Association of Nonprofit Housing, Union Station's Lived Experience Advocacy Program, LAHSA's Lived Experience Advisory Board, United Ways Everyone In, and Our Future LA Leadership Program, and social justice partners, Policy and Systems Change, and Race Equity and Homelessness Fellowships. This is truly work that is community work, and we can't do this work on our own. So I am so grateful. CSH is so grateful for your partnership and to be in community with you and to watch the things that you all are doing. Thank you so much for your partnership. I also want to send a huge shout out to our volunteer coaches, Tiffany Yvonne Cox, Tanya Garlow, Callie Ott, Karen Foreman, and Wendy Levin. I can't tell you how much we appreciate your time and your generosity and your energy. And just know that the relationships that you build are the foundation of this program. So now I'd like to introduce Kirsten Farrell. She's a longtime volunteer coach with the Speak Up program, and her organization has been vital to the work of our program since the beginning. Thank you.
Okay, so it's my first day as a Speak Up coach, and I enter the meeting room at the CSH offices. I am buzzing with adrenaline. I don't know if I'm nervous or I'm excited. I scan the room, people gathering around tables, finding their name tags, and I take a deep breath, trying to use my reasons for being here to amp up my courage to connect with strangers. I know I'm here to use the power of storytelling to create positive change. I know that as a coach, I get to use my years of improv, acting, and writing as a tool for social good. I find a seat next to Rhiannon, an advocate who I am paired up with, but I have only just met. She smiles at me, and I smile back. What I don't know is that Speak Up is much more than a storytelling program. What I'm about to find out is that it is a freedom practice. My name is Kirsten Farrell. I am a CSH Speak Up coach, and I am the director of the Goodman Center, a proud part and partner of this Speak Up community. The Goodman Center was founded by Andy Goodman in 1998 with the express purpose of working with nonprofits, foundations, and leaders so they can have more impact, primarily through storytelling. So I get real excited about stories. They do a bunch of amazing things all at once. Stories are how we create meaning in our lives. So as each advocate takes on the challenge of crafting their story, they are also claiming ownership of their stories, embracing the power of self-discovery and self-creation. Stories connect us to one another. Stories are how we get each other, right? That's why on first dates, at weddings, at 50th wedding anniversaries, we tell stories. At job interviews, company retreats, retirement parties. We tell stories to connect and honor one another. Stories teach us we are all the same. Sometimes we have a hard time seeing ourselves in others. We want to believe things like, that could never happen to me. But when we listen and open ourselves up to each other's experiences, we realize we're not so different. We're in this together. You all are about to witness that and more as you hear these stories. The stories of 5 incredible leaders who are inviting you to practice freedom with them. Okay, so this whole practice freedom thing, what do I mean by that? It sounds pretty dramatic. I warned you, I used to be an actor. So recently I had the privilege to work with author and activist Mia Birdsong, and she taught me this. She said, freedom is collective. To be free is to be in connected, caring community. The word freedom shares its roots with the word friendship. I truly believe that Speak Up is a freedom practice. Speak Up is a connected, caring community. The thing I love most is that it isn't an advocacy program or an advocacy training. It's a community of advocates. And this cohort, they have gathered on Zoom for the last 12 months, sharing and listening to each other's stories of triumph, of pain, hope, fear, trauma, and resilience. They've learned about and practiced a lot of self-care, but even more, they have created a community of care with one another. So I want to say congratulations and thank you to this year's cohort. You have practiced caring for each other as neighbors and as friends. You have imagined a future of freedom, and your stories are the foundation upon which we can build that future together.
Hi, my name is Callie Ott, and I am a CSH Speak Up coach. Antonia Hernandez. She is home. Grounded, safe, warm, and comforting. She is like a hot cup of apple cider at the end of a long day. She is like a light of a candle burning brightly in the night, offering solace and sacredness when all seems dark. She is the kind of person who will listen intently and hold space for those she loves. A strong woman who has been through it all and come out the other side, determined to make the world a better place. But not in spite of the trials and tribulations she has experienced. No, out of the love and grace she carries for herself and others along the way. It's easy to become hardened in a world that can feel like a burden, but she proves that you can experience pain and come out of the other side with a softness and quiet strength that proves to inspire everyone she encounters. It is my honor and joy to present to you the brave, the beautiful, the intelligent, and the stylish Antonia Hernandez. Thank you.
God said, be still. My name is Antonia Hernandez, and I am a CSH Speak Up advocate. I grew up in South Central Los Angeles to a single parent. My mother had to work hard to provide for our family. When I graduated high school, I went straight to work and became a switchboard operator. I know, I just told my age, but it's okay. After that, I worked for Xerox Corporation as a telecommunications representative for 15 years. I got married and had 2 beautiful sons. I realized I had to raise them differently from how I was raised. I wanted to keep them off the streets, so I kept them busy in sports and activities. In 2010, my mom was diagnosed with dementia. And then in 2012, her situation worsened. I had to quit my fingerprint job with the Department of Public Social Services and care for her 24/7. So I moved into her house. My goal was to make sure that my mom was safe and taken care of before it had gotten worse. If you ever had to help anyone with dementia, it is challenging to say the least. She would curse me out. She would push me out the front door. But that was not her. It was the disease. I started looking at her and the disease as two separate entities. We never had a normal mother-daughter relationship. I saw how other people were with their mother, and I always wanted that. After my brother passed, she told me, we were all that we have, and I love you. And that was the first time I have ever remember hearing her say that to me. That broke everything from the way I felt from middle school to my adulthood. At 1:36 p.m., October 16th, 2015, my mom passed. I held her hand and I told her that it was okay to leave me. I'm so glad that I had the opportunity because we had so much friction between us. And I could let her go with a clear mindset, no animosity and no malice. As I was dealing with the grief and stress of my mother's death, I found out that $389,000 had been given to her on a reversal loan. And the bank was sending letters to recoup the money. The house was put up for auction and sold. When I lost the house, I had nowhere to go. I moved in with my friend Joanne and slept in her den for 6 months. Then I moved in with my niece Monique for 7 months. I was told that I had to leave due to other circumstances, which gave me no other options. I went to a shelter called Testimonial Love Center. It was at this moment that I realized I was homeless. I confided in my minister from my church, Tanya Smith. She would pray with me. She would pray for me. In the prayer, she would state that God said, "Be still." During intake for the shelter, I cried. I didn't understand how I got to this point. The case manager walked me over to the facility and told me, "This is your bed, number 5. I turned around and I walked out. Didn't go back for 7 days because I was trying to figure out something different. When I returned, I was assigned the same bed, bed number 5. I knew then I needed to be still. During my stay at the shelter, I didn't expect the different situations that people were in. The mental states, the drug use, the prostitution, the depression. The shelters are not set up for everyone they want to accept. I think we can improve the shelter system by getting nurses and counselors on site. Have people on call to help with emergencies and get medical assistance for relief. I lived in this shelter for almost 3 years. I was picked up by an organization called Get Love, now the Center of Hollywood. They help people in shelters secure Section 8. I was assigned to a case manager, Anna G. I got a job as a security guard while living in the shelter, and I received a county voucher for Section 8. I was moving forward. On December 26, 2019, I signed a lease to a new apartment, and in January 2020, I moved in. When the day came, I pulled my stuff out of the shelter. Everyone asked, "Where are you going?" I said, "To my house." After my journey at the shelter was over, I signed up for online classes with Southwest College. Of April 2021, I made the Dean Scholars List, and after my fall semester of 2022, I would need to complete 6 more classes to graduate with my AA, and my goal is to transfer to Cal State Dominguez Hills or Cal State Long Beach to complete my bachelor's degree in communications. I am grateful for my experience. It made me stop and look at myself, and I realized I could do anything. If you can see it, God can give it to you. When God says be still, He is preparing you for something bigger and better. You have to surrender to God by being patient, by listening, and by being still. I am your neighbor. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Dove Presnell, one of the team at Speak Up. And it's been such a privilege to work with our next speaker, because not only did I get to help her craft her story, but I got to see her unfold as a new mom. As you listen to her carefully chosen words, I hope you'll let yourself be moved, maybe even to tears. But let those tears be fuel for her call to action, because she is not a sob story. She's a survivor and an activist. And now, I'm proud to introduce Kia Duplay.
Hi, my name is Kia. I'm a CSH advocate. I'm what you would call a poster child for trauma. I started being trafficked at the age of 15 and got out literally before my 25th birthday. I was in foster care, juvenile hall, adult justice systems, and checked off all the boxes you would want to see in your sob story. But I am not a sob story. I speak across the country, work multiple jobs, sit on 4 boards, getting my degree in electrical engineering, own a successful business, sit in a variety of advocacy groups, and now becoming a mom for the first time, despite everyone saying I would have 1 million children by now. I was also recognized by the California State Senate for the work that I do in my advocacy. Based on who I am now, you would never think that I am a survivor of human trafficking. I am a survivor, a story of resilience, a story of how with the right support, anything is possible. I was only 15 and on my way home from working on a school project when I was picked up by my first trafficker. It didn't take me long to normalize the situation because I was sexually active as long as I could remember, and definitely not by choice. It was actually easy for me to adapt because the person who took me wasn't somebody I loved. I always get asked, why didn't you run? Why didn't you fight? Well, the answer is simple. I was only 15 and he was clearly grown. Bullets are faster than my feet. And where was I really gonna go? Home was definitely not the safest place. It's always easy for people to say what they would have done in a dangerous situation until the situation actually happens to them. So which lesser evil would you choose? Surviving or losing your life? Shortly after I escaped my first abuser, I was quickly thrown in a juvenile hall, not because I committed a crime, but because there was nowhere else to put me. Though I was being held at gunpoint and had to go, I was somehow still looked at as the criminal and treated worse than the person who actually caused me so much harm. There was no rescue blanket, no SVU team, no sympathy, no hugs. I was the victim, not the criminal, while he ran free and did the same thing that he did to me to other girls. Sitting in the courtroom, I didn't understand much other than my mom didn't want me and I was going to foster care. But becoming a warder of state doesn't mean that you get to go to a home. I went from juvenile hall to a youth shelter that we called the AIDS house. I went to school during the day and worked the streets at night. All the kids were doing it. We had to provide for ourselves and the shelter was clear about they had limited funding. I had learned very young to put a mask on and pretend nothing was happening. Never speak about it or there will be consequences. So my school never actually knew what was going on. I was arrested in class and started getting bullied when I tried to go back, and started to survive on the streets by using the skills that I learned. For years, I was in and out of placements, neither safe nor supportive, never in an actual home, but always in institutions. So I always was actually homeless and ended up running away. Keep in mind I was a kid. I had no ID, no bank account, and couldn't get an apartment or hotel on my own. Couldn't pretty much do anything, so I found myself running back to another trafficker to take care of my basic needs. Picture your child, your niece, a youth, or someone you know with no bank account, no ID, and no place to stay. When I finally aged out of foster care, the little support I did have, like a social worker and extended foster care, were cut off, which forced me back into homelessness and into another abuser's palm, leading me to be criminalized as an adult simply for being homeless. I started to believe the lies that were told to me for 10 years, that it was my fault. It was when I was 24, when my case manager at the Coalition to Abolish Slavery and Trafficking and the other staff at Covenant House helped me understand that I didn't deserve any of that, and I was able to break free of what I like to call stinking thinking. The mentality that I would never win because I didn't deserve to win, and those bootstraps that everyone was pulling up themselves up with weren't given to people like me. Competent and caring support for someone who understood the realities of my situation allowed me to do things I used to dream of but never thought was possible. My case manager, Vanessa Gutierrez, who I now call my mama bear, held my hand through it all, teaching me the skills like planting, meditation, grounding, and telling me my dreams can become reality, and showing me the steps to get there. I went to my last youth shelter, transitioned into rapid rehousing, enrolled in a community college, got Section 8, got an apartment, enrolled in the life skills, got my first job, enrolled into university, got a promotion, got on 3 lived experience advisory boards, and continued to build my life skills and started training people on how to engage and care for youth just like myself. The fact of the matter is, not everyone in foster care gets to go to a home, and homelessness often starts a cycle of survival through any means possible that puts young people further and further from the lives they should be able to live. Homelessness is an experience that makes people vulnerable. It is not the definition of who that person is. I definitely don't think my life would have turned out the way that it did if I was never homeless to begin with. I do believe homelessness has an end. The money is there, the power is there, the solution is there. Ending homelessness can contribute to ending human trafficking, ending substance abuse disorder, decreasing mental health struggles, and ultimately empowering the most vulnerable people. I am just one of many stories. With the right support and true wraparound services, I know success is possible no matter where you come from. It's time to be like Nike and just do it.
Hi, my name is Tanya Gorlow, and I've had the pleasure of working with CSH advocate Caitlin Schaefer. Caitlin has had an incredible journey, and their story is incredibly powerful and really, really important for everyone to hear. And I can't wait for you to hear it. With that, I'll let Caitlin take it away.
I have always been a highly creative person. When I was 11, I wrote the story of my life, My Mom's 1,000-Year-Old Desktop PC. My mom was very highly critical of the fact that I did that, and I thought her criticism came from the belief that I wasn't grateful enough for her, quote, saving me from foster care. Part of it might have been because I've also always been to the point. I was honest in that story, and I'm going to be honest with you now. People need to know what foster care and being a young person without a home is really like. How kids like me feel when they're subjected to constant change, upheaval, and commotion. I also want to share my story with you so that you can see how people can shine no matter what they're made of. That's one of my favorite quotes from the movie Robots. It has a lot of meaning to me and for real life. I know we can all shine. I first became homeless at 18 when my mother evicted me. I was unemployed at the time, and that was the reason she gave. The real issue was that I'd recently come out to her as queer. This changed how I seemed in her eyes. I was scared and heartbroken. I felt hopeless and alone. Because she evicted me, I will have an eviction record for 8 years and will have trouble finding housing until I'm 26. For my mother's, I lived with my brother for a short time, but then had to leave and found myself without a home again. At that point, I was still 18 and I tried to get on Social Security. I filled out the forms and I went to the meetings, but during that process I found out that my mother was still receiving money from me, even though she had evicted me, which meant I couldn't get Social Security. And so I talked to someone within the adoption agency I was adopted from, and she explained to me what was going on, and she gave me the number for the Children's Law Center of California, which I contacted. With their help, I ended up in extended foster care, and I found that I could get housing through the SILP, which is the Supervised Individual Living Plan. Using the money for my SILP, I was able to pay rent to an aunt, but she said my lifestyle didn't align with her religious beliefs, so again I was out on my own with no job and nowhere to go. At this point, I was 19. Although I was able to stay in a shelter, I had to give up extended foster care, and eventually I got on Social Security. I tell you all this to emphasize that I had to find ways to support myself financially when no one was helping. Every single program I have found support through since I started experiencing homelessness, I have had to track down and contact on my own. When these programs stopped supporting me, I had to find new forms of support. Remember, I was 18 and 19 while I was experiencing this, and I was still a child, and I was trying to navigate a very complex system. In my experience, people talk a lot about helping the children, but there are very few resources exclusively for young people. People need to pay more than lip service to the help they're willing to give to the youth homeless situation, because saying you'll help and not doing it makes the situation worse. As I mentioned, there are not the same resources afforded to young adults experiencing homelessness as there are for adults experiencing homelessness. In an ideal world, we should be able to be kids. We should be cared for and protected, but if we're going to have to face this as young people, if we're going to have to become adults at a young age, we should be